Neo Lighting Console navigation. So in this video we're going to talk about everything that's on the screen and how to utilize that and access some of the different features of the program. First of all, let's start out up here in the right corner and you see this little green triangle. If you click on that, that opens up a menu here. These are custom window layouts that I've designed to make the program easier to use. Right now we're in the palettes window, and that gives us this particular window layout. If I choose Cue Playback, it'll put us in this window. If I choose Run Show, it'll put us in this window layout. And then the console keys is something that I'm just going to use for the tutorial, so you probably won't see that on the Neo console. So let's go back to palettes and just take a look around the screen and what we have here. Across the top, we have a number of soft buttons that do various things. Over here are some selection buttons that aid in the selection of fixtures and kind of make that process faster. More than likely, you're just probably going to either click on individual fixtures or click and drag or use some of these buttons down here to select fixtures. And we'll talk about that in the tutorial about setting attributes for fixtures. Up here are some buttons that we can use once we've selected some fixtures. For example, the on button will turn those fixtures on at a certain intensity. The out will turn the intensity off. The home will set all the values of the fixture back to their default values and so on. And we'll talk about those a little bit more again when we're doing fixture attributes. Up here we have park fixtures, undo. This is a command area here where you can use this to undo things that you've done in the program. For example, if you recorded a cue and you decide that you want to back out of that and not do that, you can use this much like an undo command in a word processor. The release button, of course, once we have fixtures selected, they'll be indicated by a red border. Pressing the release button will release those fixtures so that they're no longer selected. Recording group allows you to select a group of lights and record them as a group. Recording a cue, of course, means recording cue. Updating a cue is taking a cue that's already been recorded and update it. Recording effects, we'll talk about in effects. Record palettes. Groups, this will display some of the groups that have already been recorded or saved. Palettes, this will display different palettes, and sometimes some of the palettes are empty, but if we go to like color, we'll see that we've recorded some color palettes in here. We don't have any intensity palettes or presets or beam palettes because we don't have any lights that use beam. And then of course you have some effects, and we'll talk about that when we do effects. And then copy, again, probably won't use the copy button. So basically a lot of these buttons up here, probably the ones you use most often will be the record cue button up here or update cue. They'll more than likely be the two buttons that you use most often. All right, let's talk about this area right here in this window. This is what we call a magic sheet. It allows me to display what lights are currently being used in the show. We do have some lights that are in the rig that we're not using, mostly because they're not currently working. So to avoid any confusion, we've not listed those fixtures here, so that when you click on a fixture here, you know that it should be a fixture that's working. Now that being said, we do have a couple fixtures that have some burned out light bulbs in them that we need to replace, and we do have one fixture down here that's currently malfunctioning that hopefully we can get back online. We are missing some fixtures. There should be another one in here. There should be another fixture in here. There should be 3 more in here. So that's why the unusual layout here. Hopefully as we get along here and we get a lift onto the stage, we can repair some of these fixtures so they actually become useful for us. When you're looking at this layout, there's 2 ways to look at it. Right now we're in the block design. And by the way, if you should encounter something like the layout's not quite centered, if you click on this button up here, it will fit and center everything into the window for you so you can see everything that's supposed to be in that magic sheet. As you saw, I can kind of move around this way by just clicking up here and then moving my mouse left or right. I can zoom in to see what kind of information here in the zoom. And as you can see, as we zoom in, there is, first of all, the fixture number, the number assigned to it. This is just a number assigned to that fixture. The color that the fixture is currently set to. So these are LED lights, and they're currently set to white so that when we raise the intensity, we'll actually get a white light on stage. And then there's some descriptors here. It's an LED wash light, and its position is around electric 2, and it is a wash light. You can see down here, this is an LED spot, and it's around electric 2, but it's a spotlight. So the electric 1 bar is toward the front of the stage, and the electric 2 is further back on the stage. So this gives you an idea where these lights are positioned on the stage. So these lights here are LED lights that are up in the front of the stage, and these lights here are LED lights that are back more towards the middle of the stage. These are incandescent lights that are back along the sides of stage right and stage left, so they actually shoot in from the sides. These fixtures here are up in the catwalk. The line of fixtures here, these are LED fixtures up front, okay? And then these are incandescent fixtures in the back here. So there's a mix of different fixtures up in the catwalk. We have the advanced intelligent LED fixtures where we can actually change the colors. And then we have the old-fashioned, just standard source 4 lights where it just gives off a white light. And if we actually want a color in it, we'd have to put a gel in front of the lamp. I did assign these a color just to indicate to you as a programmer that these are standard incandescent lights. They just have one DMX channel, which is intensity. Same things for these side lights back here. These are standard source 4 incandescent lights. So I just gave them a color so that you know these are just standard theatrical lights, and they just have one channel, which is intensity. If we click on the sheet up here, it'll change the display to actually look like lamps themselves. And again, we can just click this to make sure that it fits within the window. This layout's a little more helpful because it actually shows where the lamps are pointing. Like we have these LED spots up near the front that are pointing in toward the center. Again, we're missing one in here. We're supposed to have 4 wash lights in here. This one's malfunctioning. There should be 3 more LED spots in here that are missing currently. These 2 are pointing toward the middle of the stage from stage left. And then we do have these 5 LED washes that are operating across the back there. And then our side lighting, and of course, up in the catwalk, our LED lights, and then up in the catwalk, our incandescent lights. To make selection quicker, down here we have what we call groups. So I've assigned various groups to the lights, and the groups that I chose here were the way they were set for concerts. So when I click on this is Cat Conventional Stage, these are the lights that are pointing toward the stage itself. So if we raise the intensity up on these, it's going to light up the stage. These are the LED lights that are pointed onto the stage. So if we raise the intensity on these, it's going to light up the stage. These are wash lights, so it's both rows of my wash lights. These are actually up on the stage. So if we turn these on, these are up above the stage. These are the stage source 4s, both stage right and stage left. So if we happen to bring those on, that would turn on the light from the sides. These are the stage, I call them LECOs, which is basically ellipsoidals. So again, these are the LED spots coming in from stage right and from stage left. And as I say, we are missing some of these, and one of them is currently malfunctioning. Down here is stage left door. We had set these to illuminate the door area. So on the stage right door, so these 2 lamps here, if we raise the intensity, they should light up the area that's actually off the stage down toward the entrance door on stage right. And then of course we have stage left door. These 3 lamps over here would actually illuminate the entrance that actually goes outside off to stage left. Cat LEDs, these would be the catwalk LED lights that are pointed into the pit. And these are the catwalk conventional lights that are pointed into the pit. So if we wanted to light up the pit, these were the lights that we would select to light up the pit area. And then finally, sides, I think these are basically set to far right apron and far left apron. So if there's podiums up there, there's people up there speaking, we can select those. Basically, these are group select buttons that allow us to quickly select a group of lights and then set their attributes, their intensity, and their color. Back over here, of course, we have our cue list, and we have various cue lists. Right now I have the Beetlejuice beta cue list up, but we have a main stage cue list, and then we also have this tutorial cue list that I'm going to use in one of the later tutorials, but we'll leave up the Beetlejuice cues for right now. This is very important. It should say cue only mode. We want to make sure it's that, and it should stay in that mode unless somebody changes something. We don't want to operate in what they call tracking mode. We want to operate in cue only mode. Up here, you'll notice that right now we're in current playback, which shows the cues. If we select a fixture or fixtures, you'll notice that this immediately jumps over to what we call fixture control. So now we can set things on that fixture like the intensity and the colors and any utility settings that'll be on that. And I'll cover that more when you actually get in fixture programming or fixture attributes as we go that. But that is what you're seeing here. So if you don't see the cue list, just click over here where it says current playback. These buttons should remain on. This simply means that when we're recording anything, we want to record any effects that are included, any submasters that may be on, and any palettes that are currently embedded in the cues should also be recorded with that. The gear up here allows us to change cue list properties, so we can rename the cue list or give it a different ID number, and the behavior should be set at override. Make sure that's set at override. There are some choices here such as build, highest takes precedence, exclusive. Make sure that it's set at override if that accidentally gets changed, of course. Okay, of course we have our cues in here, and there's some information, and we get talking about in the tutorial about recording cues. We'll talk about that more. We have buttons down here that allow us to run the cues, so I can click go. And when a cue is live on stage, they will have a yellow border around it, which means that these intensities and values, color values in that are indicated over here, will actually be live on stage. So the lights will be on and you'll be seeing all this information on stage. As we continue to click go, we'll proceed through the cue list. So we go to the next cue. We can also go back by clicking on the stop go back. If a cue is in progress, like this cue will take 3 seconds for it to initiate. If I click the go button and quickly click this, you'll notice that this goes red. And it'll show us that the fade time is 3 seconds. We have 2 seconds remaining because we stopped this cue before it was done fading in all the way. We can continue to fade in by clicking go or stop the cue, and then back up if we want to, okay? When we're proceeding forward through the cue list like go, it'll be using the timing down here, which is 3 seconds or whatever the timing is here. If we use back, it just takes 2 seconds, so the timing is ignored and it just jumps back and it takes 2 seconds for that cue to come up. Another thing that we can also do is by taking the mouse and double clicking on any cue, we can make that cue live on stage. It will come up in 2 seconds. It does not use the timing here. So if you have any specific timing that you set for a cue, you need to use the go button for that. Just double clicking will not access the timing that you've set, and the stop back button will not access the timing. And then finally, if we hit reset, it basically resets the entire cue list, and you can see that everything has gone dark on stage. Down here we have our show title and the current date, and we also have our current time, which is in military time here, so this would be 1:06 p.m. Also, if you see next to the show title an asterisk, that means that something has been changed with this show and it has not been saved or recorded. So whenever you see an asterisk, make sure you go down here to options, click on options and click on save. Now you'll see that the menu comes up saying it's saving the information and the asterisk will disappear. So that's telling you that, okay, whatever information that you changed, it's now been saved, so you can safely shut down the program without losing that information. Down here, we have what we call a palettes. These are color palettes. This is a quick way to be able to assign colors to the lamps. Now remember, we have incandescent lights up here, so they can't be assigned colors. They're just standard lights. The only way we can do colors on those and on these incandescents is by actually put a gel in front of the lamp itself to change the color. But all of these LED lights can actually be assigned colors by simply clicking down here in the palettes. So we can choose some LEDs and then click on red, and it'll assign the red color to those, or green or blue, and so on. I'll be talking about palettes a little bit later in one of the tutorials, because once you've assigned a palette to a light, it actually continues to refer back to the palette. So this is a quick way to change a lot of cues that are referencing the palette, and I'll talk about that more later on. Another thing you can do too is actually record a palette. So if you set some lights to a specific color that you really like, we can record that and save that as a color. And again, we'll talk about that when we're doing attributes. So that's basically everything that's included in this particular window layout. So this is where you most likely want to be when you're recording cues and adjusting cues. Down the bottom, we do have a couple more buttons that we may be accessing. Live means we're currently in live programming mode, so it's going to show us everything that's on stage. So we're in cue 1 currently. This cue is on stage. This is what's being lit up. We can go to blind mode. We can now go to different cues and program them or update them or add cues and change them, and it will not affect what is going on stage. As far as we're concerned, cue 1 is still live on stage, but you can go in and edit things. This is handy when you're in rehearsal and you don't want to bother the actors. They're on stage doing something. You can put them in one of the cue situations, lighting situations. Then you can go and add extra cues or change some of the cues that you have up already, but nothing will change with the on-stage lighting. That's why it's called blind mode. We're working in the blind because we can't see what we're doing. We just have to know what we're doing by looking over here and seeing what's happening there. And you get out of blind mode just simply by going back to live mode, and now you can see that this is what is currently on stage. Patch, you won't have to bother with this window at all. This is just our assignments to what lights have what numbers and what they're doing and their DMX addresses. Groups, you won't have to bother with that either. This is something where I do a little bit of housekeeping on here and look at the various groups and what they do. Cue list, you will be accessing this. This is the only way you can go in and delete a cue. And we'll talk about that when I get into my little tutorial here about recording cues. But in order to delete a cue, this is where you have to come. You can also get in here and edit the cues. It's very much like a spreadsheet. There are windows going across, and you can go in each of the windows like a spreadsheet and change those. So we'll talk about that more when we're in and actually editing cues. We have effects list over here, which has a number of effects. Some of these I had recorded for other shows, but the console remembers what I had done and what I recorded. And then finally, we have our options window over here, where of course you do your save file and some other items that you can access, such as system properties. Most of the time, you're just going to be doing save file. And we'll talk about what you do if you want to start an entirely new show and you don't want all these old cue lists and stuff in there in another tutorial. But this is what you'll need to be able to do programming. Once you have established your programming and got everything recorded, then you can go to a window that's a little simpler, like cue playback. So this is just going to show us, I'm going to click up here to center up my lights. This is just going to show us the cues and what is currently going on. Sometimes you may have to click up here and then click back here to get this to update itself. If you notice, when I first brought it up, it wasn't showing any colors, any values. If you see that you have a cue live and this isn't displaying the information, just click up here for a minute on the blocks and then the sheet 1, and then it will update itself. And then we can operate from here, and you can actually see things changing. The blocks selection, some people prefer, instead of looking at all the fixtures, would rather see the actual blocks themselves, and you can see the colors in there. They're kind of still in the positions they would be on stage, but it's up to really the operator whether they would like to see the blocks, which is kind of the traditional way that lighting consoles operate, or if you want to see the fixtures up here themselves. This is basically for seeing what cues are currently being put on the stage, and this is for you to be able to look at the lights. So once in a while you can catch some mistakes. You'll be in a cue and look over there and say, gosh, that doesn't look right. I think there's a problem with that cue. I don't think that's what I programmed. So that's a chance for you to look at it and see if everything looks correct. I'm going to hit reset. I have another version here called Run Show. With this version, it's similar, but I've added some submasters. Now, on the upper left-hand corner of the board, there are 10 submaster faders up there that are currently active. Those will turn on various sections of lights onto the stage. These virtual submasters here do the same thing as those submasters do up on the board. And I'm not sure, I believe those are motorized submasters. So if we take this virtual submaster here and raise it up, if you look at your board, up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll actually see that fader moving up. This particular fader is controlling some incandescent conventional catwalk lights that are lighting up the stage. So I have cat conventional labeled there. This one here is called cat LEDs. These particular lights are lighting up the stage. That's submaster 2. These are wash lights over the top of the stage, and you can see that it lights up all the LED wash lights when I raise that submaster. This submaster here brings on all the side lights, both on stage right and stage left. This submaster here brings up the stage ellipsoidals, which are here. This submaster here brings up the stage right door, This submaster brings up the stage left door. This submaster here brings up pit lights, and this submaster here would bring up the podium lights, which are on the left and the right, so if you have speakers. So the reason these are programmed is that if somebody's having an assembly, they can just pick some of these submasters and turn them on. You don't actually have to write cues. Or if you're in rehearsal and you just want to get some lights on stage, you can do catwalk conventionals, catwalk LEDs, and then you can also do the stage wash lights, and that'll give you quite a bit of light on stage. You'll notice that when you engage submasters, that it does turn the intensity value to a yellow color. And the submasters will override anything you have on stage. So for example, if we're in Q1 here, and I say go, and I have these fixtures on stage set like that, and I access my stage wash lights, it's going to change the color and the intensity. Now you had them at full, but if you notice when it changed from your assigned colors to the colors that I have assigned for the submaster. If these were set to a lower intensity, it would also override that intensity, and you wouldn't see the full in green, you would actually see the full in yellow. And you can see that the submaster has taken value. So if you ever notice yellow values up in here, it means that there is a submaster that's turned on and it's overriding what you wrote in the cue. Just move your submaster fader back down to the bottom, and now the cue will be in control, and you'll be getting your cue intensity and your cue colors that you set. That's pretty much it. Some other tutorials I'll go on to explain about how do we set the lights as far as intensity and color, and then how do we record cues and set timings, etc.